So today I will be presenting on the map to college because sometimes it could be a little difficult to navigate. Where do I go? What are my options when it comes to applying to UCs, Cal States, or what else is out there besides the two of them? And for some of you, this may be more on like the transfer journey of going to a community college and seeing what options are available for you afterwards. For others, this may be just right out of high school and what options are available to you at that point as well. Today, I am joined by our student outreach ambassadors and also one of my colleagues, Iona Nee, who will be answering questions on the chat. And actually, I didn't even introduce myself. My apologies. My name is Eddie Ramirez. I'm an assistant director for the Transfer Opportunity Program. Some of you may have worked with as I cover a lot of schools in California, a lot of community colleges in California, but I mainly work with the North State region schools like Shasta College, Sierra, and Yuba, and a few others as well. But like I was saying, please ask questions throughout the presentation, and our student outreach ambassadors and my colleague as well will be able to go in and answer them to the best of their abilities. The one thing I do want to say is that this is not an advising session. I know some of you may have real deep burning questions as to what to do and how your records are going, grades and all that. So again, please refrain from asking some of those questions that are specific to your situation. We do offer different resources for students, such as advising appointments and which are one-on-one. And obviously, this fall, we're going to start hitting the road and seeing a lot of students at their schools as well. So that would be another great opportunity to reach out to us. And I'll provide some resources at the end that may be helpful for you. But for now, just, obviously the more general questions would be easier for us to answer. But all right, we'll go ahead and get started. So here's a quick rundown of what we're going to talk about in this presentation. The first part is going to be knowing your why. Why are you choosing to go down this path of going to higher education, whether it's right out of high school or as a transfer student going from community college over to the next step. I'm also going to go over some of those transfer options. Obviously, here as part of a UC Davis presentation, I'm sure you all are familiar with at least some of the UC system, but there are other options out there that I would like to cover. We are also going to go over cost of attendance because that is a very important part in the decision-making process of where are you going to go in within the UC system, within the Cal State system, or your other options as well. And then steps to degree completion. In this section, I will be talking a little bit about requirements and kind of some of those things to look out for when you're thinking of what degrees I'm going to go for. And then finally, I'm going to end with some resources that should be helpful for you as you are going through this journey of higher education. Okay, so first, let's talk about knowing your why. Now, when I first went through this presentation, I kind of read those bullet points one by one, but I realized that the why go to college is something that could be very personal and very much individualistic to your own experiences, right? Here are some of these items that we believe are common reasons for why go to college. So going into, for example, to expand potential earnings, this is something that a lot of people talk about regularly as to why you should continue your education and go to get an associate's degree, go get a bachelor's degree, and in some cases go even further than that, right? And that's very much true. Earning a degree can expand your potential earnings, whether that's because you are open to new careers or in some cases, jobs are specifically looking for a degree in order for you to get into that job position. I've also known of careers that simply having a degree shows that you are committed to something and working hard towards a specific goal. And that's what they like. And they will sometimes even offer you a higher salary just by having a degree. Another reason as to why people go to college is exploring different career options. Now, if you're in high school and you're getting ready to start applying for college, At this point, there are a few things that maybe you're considering as potential careers, and it's good to do your research as to what degrees are going to be able to get me into those career fields. And same for transfer students who, in some cases, are still going from, their high school to community college over to their four-year institution and thinking what career options are going to be available to me once I finish my transfer and then obviously my degree after that. And then for those students who maybe have had careers and are going back to school, going to college again will open up new doors for them as they're exploring new career pathways. Another reason you go to college or people go to college is that they discover and learn about what they love. And that's something I emphasize a lot when I'm speaking to students out on the road. A lot of times you will hear family members, friends, or you will go online and you will hear of different degrees that could potentially land you a high career or a high paying career or something like that. But I always encourage students to look at those fields that they truly do enjoy and won't mind going through all the hours of studying because this is something that they actually care about. Another thing too is there are so many things available to you at a university, for example, that you get to explore that maybe you didn't see before. And this comes in the forms of clubs and organizations. Even Davis, for example, where we have over 900 clubs and organizations, you are for sure going to find stuff that both you really like and really love at this point, but you're also going to find new things that you may have never even seen before that would be great for you to just go and explore. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the next point of exploring your identity and potential. Sometimes coming from high school over to university can be a very big change, and same for community college students going to university campus because you're open now to more ideas, to more things to do, like I mentioned with the clubs and orgs, even your major, right? Once you're going from like lower division classes over to upper division classes, or when you were studying a subject in high school and now you're going to a four-year institution, there's way more to these fields that you maybe didn't even know before, and you get to explore that and also different ways of working, right? Of studying, doing research projects, going and do research. You really get to experience everything that you're made of at this point in time, and you really get to carry that moving forward into careers, graduate school, and everything else you plan to do. I think the gaining practical life skills is a pretty important point because there's a lot of people who sometimes wonder, well, what am I getting this degree for? Like, how is it really going to help me moving forward? And other than just the career options and earnings potentials that we already mentioned, just gaining some practical life skills on how to organize your day, organize your studying, organizing your work habits, understanding your work habits. A lot of people don't really know what it is that they're capable of doing until they get put into such situations. So then once they go through their education, they realize that they really are good at capturing information under specific environments. For example, myself, I always thought I could just do my homework no matter what and nothing would really bother me. But once I got to college, I realized that I really need a quiet study space in order for me to be able to capture information. I also realized I need a lot of tutoring and it's okay to ask for help. And that's something you'll see in your careers in graduate school moving forward, that sometimes you just need help and it's okay to ask for help. So again, you start learning some of these practical life skills earlier on, analyzing information, writing reports, things that are applicable to many different jobs and graduate programs later on. You also get to travel and study abroad, which is a big plus for students who maybe didn't have the opportunity in their high schools or growing up or in their community colleges. Universities like UC Davis and a lot of the UCs, we have partnerships where we are able to take students all over the world to our partner institutions so the students can go and study and get different views on their specific majors, on education, and they get to connect with students from all over the world as well. And we also have domestic programs where students can go and do internships, for example, here in Sacramento, or go over to Washington, D.C. And different institutions of higher education across the country will have very similar programs to that to help you go and travel and explore the world in different ways. You also get to experience independence. For some students, this is a pretty big point. They want to go to a university that is far away from their hometown because they just want to go and get a different experience. Or some cases, students still want to stay close to home, but experience a little bit of that independence, but maybe moving in with some friends at an apartment complex or going to dorms or whatever that may be. And also, just financially, for example, you do get to experience independence as well, as now you're in charge of what food you're going to be buying for the week and what items you're going to be buying for your classes and so on and so forth. And that goes into that financial responsibility of understanding how far money can go, right? When it comes to covering your tuition and fees and supplies as well. And also where maybe you can cut back a little bit. I recently did a presentation on financial wellness where that was one of the big things that I heard from talking to students that sometimes they don't know how to handle money, well, especially once financial aid kicks in or scholarships kick in. And it's something you will learn as you're going through this process. For me, one of the biggest whys of going to college was mainly because I wanted to see what was out there and explore new things. I've always been someone I'm originally from Southern California, from the Inland Empire, and I always wanted to see what else was out there. And so I was able to go to a university, and actually I was a transfer student, so I went to community college first and explored some new ideas, some new majors that I had never even heard of before. And then once I got to the university, I was able to kind of continue that. And now, obviously, I've been able to go to graduate school and everything and really expanded my horizons past what I thought was possible when I was still living at home in way back when. All right, so before we start talking about, transfer options and everything, I do want to define a little bit on what the difference is between a first year student and a transfer student, right? So first year students are students who are currently in high school or have graduated from a high school but have not enrolled in a regular session at a college or university. There are a lot of students right now who are in high school and will be or have been attending college level classes at their local community college or maybe enrolling on a class online as well. At that point, you're still considered a high school student, a high school applicant. You will only become a transfer student or officially a college student once you have taken that regular term. And that regular term is typically the fall right after you graduate, right? So if you're a high school student and you're graduating in spring, that's summer. If you're taking summer classes right after graduation, that still doesn't make you a full college student. It would have to be that fall semester or fall quarter afterwards, where that does become or make you a college student at that point and a transfer student. So here on the right-hand side, you will see what defines a transfer student, which are typically students who are in their sophomore year, junior year, or senior standing and they are enrolled in a regular session at their college or university following high school. And typically, because of the way applications work, where you have to start applying a year in advance, a lot of students who are transfers are going to fall within those three levels of sophomore, junior, or senior, right? Because students will typically take a full year's worth of classes before they are able to transfer if sophomore transfer is available. Most students, especially for the UC system, will transfer in as junior level transfers, right? Which means that they've completed about 2 years worth of coursework, and then are going to finish their last 2 years or so at the UC system or wherever it is that they go. And keep in mind here when I'm saying sophomore, junior, senior, 2 year, 1 year, these levels are not necessarily defined by the amount of time you spent at the institution. They're defined by the amount of units you've completed, right? So, for example, to be a junior level applicant, meaning you're going to come into a UC as junior level standing with about 2 years left on your degree. Students who are in junior level standing have completed typically 60 semester units or 90 quarter units, right? So think of that as you're thinking, like, where do I stand? It is based off of units, not necessarily the amount of time you spent at at an institution. So now go into transfer options, given that we are the transfer opportunity program at UC Davis. So here are a few options that are available to you here, and these are the ones that people commonly think of when they think of higher education. So we'll go left to right, and we'll start off with the CSU or the California State University system. There are 23 campuses all across the state of California, which are part of the California State University system. Some of these I'm sure you heard of, such as, San Diego State, Long Beach, Fresno, so on and so forth, Sacramento, SF State. So they are all over the place. And obviously, the name sometimes varies. Sometimes it will strictly say California State University. Other times it'll be the name of like the city, for example, or the region that it's in, and then State University. Next, we have the UC system, where we have 10 campuses as part of the UC system. However, only nine serve undergraduate students. The 10th campus is the University of California at San Francisco, which is a graduate school campus. So that's one you can't directly apply to until you have finished up your bachelor's degree. And one more thing I want to say about the Cal State system is that there are also polytechnical campuses as part of the Cal State system, like Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly Pomona, and Humboldt, as well as part of the Polytechnic system. There are also private universities and out-of-state universities in not just here, obviously in California, but all over the country. Some of these private institutions you probably heard of, like USC, Stanford, Vanderbilt, and many others are part of that private university system. And out of state, I'm sure there's also many that you've heard of, like Arizona State, Washington, Nevada, so on and so forth, right? So these, of course, are options for students as well, even here in California, as sometimes they may be able to get transfer or specific transfer requirements for them as they're looking for some of these out-of-state institutions. And then finally, there are the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities. Nationwide, there are 101 campuses. And one thing to keep in mind is that they accept students from all ethnicities. So it's not just exclusively to one population. So it can feel a little overwhelming as to like all these different options. Even looking at the Cal State system, like how many there are here in the States, and of course, adding on the UC system, private schools, HBCUs, there's a lot to choose from. So here are going to be some ways that we try to help students out, or that we use to kind of help find that fit for each campus, right? So looking at these fit factors, we have five of them in particular that we suggest students to look into, starting off with academic. Does this particular campus that you're looking for serve your academic needs as a learner, right? And this could be in a few different ways. Does this actually provide the resources for you that you need to study in the best way possible, right? Whether this is through tutoring, retention centers, even do the classes and internship opportunities that you're taking actually fit with the career that you're planning to go into in the future? That's something that you definitely need to think about as you're finding this fit for each campus you're looking into. Next is the social fit factor, which is access to and acceptance by individuals and community. Depending on where you go in the state, it could have a different feel for, the community around it as well. For me, one of the biggest shocks when I moved from Southern California up to Davis was even just the amount of bikes that are here, and how biking and cycling around not just the campus of Davis, but the city of Davis is such a norm. That's something I wasn't really used to. Now, there's other things obviously to consider when it comes to some of these social aspects, but it's something to look into. Is this a place that I feel I'd be comfortable with for the next 4 years, 2 years, whatever the timeline may be for you to complete your degree? And this is something to also consider across the entire country. There are people who really want to move to a specific state or across the country, but it's always good to see how comfortable will you be in that location as well and in that community. Next is the environmental fit factor, which is feeling comfortable and secure on campus in the larger geographic location. And this kind of fits to what I mentioned already before, but also seeing what do you like when it comes to environmental and geography as well. Some students are really looking for that city life, and a campus like UCLA, for example, would be a perfect fit for them. Others are looking more for a beach vibe, right? So being somewhere near the coast, like one of the campuses that are on the coast or a Cal State that's on the coast is something they really want to go for. And others maybe are looking for more remote places or campus that's specific to agriculture or to whatever it may be. And you're going to be looking for those campuses because that would probably be a better fit for your interests. Next is financial. Can I actually afford to attend these schools? And this is something where it is bigger than just one individual or the individual student, I guess I should say, right? Because in a lot of cases, the family or others close to the student, it can really determine the decision process when it comes to the financial feasibility of attending a specific school, right? You will see, and something I will cover in a little bit will be the in-state tuition for attending a UC and out-of-state tuition as well, and same for some of the other options that we mentioned before. And it is something to consider. Is this something that I can actually go into? What financial aid options will I have? Scholarship opportunities, work opportunities as well. All of these things need to be taken into consideration when choosing which campus or which school is best for you. And then finally, the professional fit factor, which is the potential to launch or facilitate a future career, right? When students are thinking about campuses, and I hear this a lot when they're thinking about UC campuses, sometimes they just go for the specific name, right? They have a name or a specific campus they really want to go to because they've heard a lot of great things about it. But sometimes they don't really consider how the major that they're going into at that specific campus will impact their future career possibilities, right? And that's because every campus, and same with the Cal States and other universities, will have a specific approach to a major, right? Some campuses might focus on, let's say, cybersecurity within computer science, while others may focus more on animation within computer science. So it's always good for you to check on what research projects or what work have professors have done in the major that you're looking into to see how some of that can actually impact your future career growth and how would it impact what you're learning in these classes as well. Okay, so going over a little bit more on the UC system, like I mentioned before, there are 9 undergraduate campuses as part of the UC. And as you can see there, there are 4 more Northern California, I guess you could say, campuses where you have UC Davis, Berkeley, Santa Cruz, and Merced, which is on the Central Valley. And then you have the 5 Southern California campuses which include UC Santa Barbara, Riverside, UCLA, Irvine, and San Diego. And this is where you take those things that we talked about, but the fit factors, and see which campus really fits what you're looking for, whether it's because a professor is working on a project that really is what you want to do for your career, or maybe you've always wanted to be at the beach, so Santa Cruz, Santa Barbara, or even San Diego might be a better fit for you. Stuff like that, right? Apply these fit factors into the campuses because we're all a little bit different in what we have to offer for students as well. So when you're looking at these 9 campuses, if you're considering the UC system, here are a few questions to ask yourself, as you're making a decision. Um, First being, what size campus appeals to me? Each campus here is going to be a little bit different, right? You have the larger campuses like UCLA, San Diego, Berkeley, and even Davis is up there as well, Irvine too. And you also have like the smaller campuses that, for example, UC Merced and others that will provide just a smaller community feel for you. And then if that's the way that you feel would be best for your academic, future, that's the way to go. Also, what location works best for me? Like I mentioned, some students want to be on the coast, some students want to be further inland. So we do have options for you in that case. But like I mentioned, there's also there's a variety in the majors and what they do at each campus that could be important for you as well. And then finally, which campuses offer majors in the areas I'm interested in, right? As I just mentioned, a lot of campuses have very similar majors, but some of them may be very specific to the campus that you're going to be studying at. Or for example, at UC Davis, right, we have the viticulture and enology major, which is like the study of winemaking, which is very particular to the region that we're in. And same with UC Riverside. There's a lot of research projects in UC Riverside related to pollution and related to oranges and other citrus, because that is a big part of that specific region. All right, next I'm going to go over the California Community College system, which some of you may be already familiar with, especially if you're a transfer student. So there are 116 community colleges in the state, which serve over 2 million students annually. All right, so that's a lot of people that they're serving every year. As you can see in this map, hopefully it's not too blurry, these community colleges are spread out throughout the entire state. And one benefit to attending a California community college, among many, is that there are a lot of transfer opportunities for students who attend one of these colleges, right? I'm sure you all have heard like the Transformation Guarantee and other programs where we help students from community colleges transfer over to like UC system. And of course, programs like what we're in right now, the Transfer Opportunity Program, where we have specific community colleges that we partner with to help those students out on their transfer journey. So another thing about the community colleges is that they provide hundreds, thousands more skill-based career education needed to secure good paying jobs, right? So when you're going to community college, it's not just about classes that will transfer over to the UCs or CSUs or wherever you end up going. Some of these classes that you can take are very specific or very skill-based, technical based even, that could help you on a specific job that you're looking into, or maybe you're starting your own business and that could help you out as well. Or maybe you just have a specific interest that you can go ahead and take classes for while you're at a community college. And here are some of those community college pathways. For the CSUs, of course, they do have their associate's degree for transfers. They have their CSU General Education Pattern Certification. And some of these things are now being combined or changed, such as the IGETC, which now has been changed to CalGETC for a lot of students. That is a certification which lets UC CSUs know that you have completed your general education at the community college level so that you don't have to take duplicate courses once you get over to UC or CSU. So it's a good thing to get, finishing up that CalGETC certification while you are at a community college, but at least specific to UC's CalGETC certifications are not required as part of the admissions process. So that's something to keep in mind. For UCs, we have the UC Pathways, which is a way for you to know, are you meeting the major preparation requirements or whatever it may be for all of the UC campuses, right? So these are majors that are commonly found in all the UC campuses. You will complete those classes so that we can know and you yourself can know that you are now eligible to apply for all the UC campuses. And then we also have the Transformation Guarantee. You probably heard it as TAG. You probably heard of TAP and TAG, which is the guarantee is guaranteed admission into one of the participating campuses in the UC system. Currently, there are 6 participating campuses, and most majors are typically available as part of the Transformation Guarantee. However, it may not be all of them. So it's always good to see which ones you are able to apply to as part of the guaranteed admission. There are specific requirements that you need to look into when it comes to Transformation Guarantee. So I highly suggest you work with their community college counselor or reach out to us at undergraduate admissions to see if you are meeting the requirements for the guarantee. And then for HBCUs, there are pathways for guaranteed admission coming from community college over to the HBCU. And as you can see there, 37 out of the 101 campuses participate in such guaranteed admissions programs. Right, so transfer could actually be fairly easy to navigate if you're looking at the right ways, right? There might be specific details, specific pathways that will let you know this is how we'll get guaranteed admission into the campus that I'm looking into or the major that I'm looking into. All right, so continuing on with the community college pathways, for the general education, or this is something to keep in mind, I guess, the differences between the different types of courses you'll be taking. One being that for general education, there's coursework that all students need to complete, right? You'll see this in your English classes and math classes, at least like a college level math class. Students will also take courses in different subject areas like arts, humanities, a little bit into sciences, so on and so forth. And a lot of times you can determine which subjects times work best for you, right? That was, I remember, a big plus from when I graduated high school over to going to community college was that now I could take the specific classes I really like. So for me, I really enjoyed history. So I took history as part of my humanities classes. I really enjoyed biology and physics. So I took those classes as well. And then when it came to mathematics, obviously that's part of the requirements to transferring in most cases. So I completed statistics and a little bit of calculus as well. So when you're taking these classes, you do have that flexibility of taking the subjects or specific classes that you really want to take within a subject. All of these classes will be lower division courses. So when it comes to transferring, those will be considered lower division units transferring over to a UC, CSU, wherever you may go. Another thing to consider is the major preparation classes, right? These major preparation classes are usually on top of general education and general transfer requirements, and they may be coursework that's specific to your area of study. So these need to be taken before you start going into your upper division coursework. And these oftentimes can be taken at a community college or even another university, whether it's a private or out of state or HBCU, for example. These major prep classes oftentimes are a lower division as well. And for those of you who maybe are considering UC Davis or transferring to UC Davis, you'll be familiar with these as well as there are specific courses, series, GPAs sometimes that need to be met before you actually transfer to the campus. And then there's upper division coursework, right? This is coursework that's, again, specific to your area of study that can only be taken at the university you're going to complete your degree at, right? And these are needed to graduate with that degree. So, a quick rundown, a quick summary of what this whole process looks like. If you attend a California Community College, you will be taking your general education classes, typically covered through your Cal CalGETC. And when you're thinking of requirements, this is part of the UC7 course pattern. If you're interested in a major that has additional requirements, such as classes or GPA, this is going to be part of the major prep. So that's going to be stacked on top of those general education classes. And then once you fully transfer over to your university, you'll be taking those upper division classes, which are specific to the major, right? So just hopefully that is clear as you're going through this equation here. All right. And it's good to understand admissions criteria when you're looking at different systems. Here, we'll be talking about the CSU system and the UC system. For the CSUs, they do have major preparation courses for you to consider. This could be for majors that are considered impacted. So, as you're looking at your different CSU campuses and different majors that you're interested in, make sure to reach out to an admissions staff member from that CSU so that you're getting accurate information as to what requirements are needed for your major. There's also the 60 semester unit credit limit or a minimum, excuse me, for CSU transferable classes. That's one thing to keep in mind that when you're going to a community college, for example, and if you're looking to transfer, not every class from a community college will transfer. And there may be classes that are transferable to CSU, but not to UC and vice versa. So that's something to keep in mind as you're going through the process of looking at requirements. Next is a 2.0 minimum GPA, but again, there might be specific GPAs for you to look into that may be higher than that, depending on the campus and the major. And another thing too to keep in mind is just because it says minimum doesn't mean that's the one you shoot for, right? Always try to be a competitive applicant by having the highest GPA possible. And then there's specific mandatory courses to be to take, such as the Golden Four, which include oral communication, written communication, critical thinking, and quantitative reasoning. For the UC system, again, there are major preparation courses to watch out for, and we call these our selective majors. And one thing to note is that these specific major preparation courses or requirements may vary depending on the UC campus that you're applying for, even if it's a very similar major, right? So if you're applying for biology, let's say at UC Davis, the requirements may be different from Davis to Berkeley to Riverside to Merced and so on and so forth. Another thing too, which is something I hear sometimes, is that just because you make requirements for another campus doesn't mean a different campus will honor it, right? Because again, we have different requirements. There's specific things that we're looking for from students as we're reviewing applications. We also have the 60 UC transferable semester credit minimum. So again, as long as the class is transferable to the UC system, that's what's going to count towards that unit. And then there is a 2.4 minimum GPA for California residents, 2.8 for non-residents. But keep in mind that different campuses, again, have different GPA minimums. So, for example, UC Davis, our minimum GPA for California residents is a 2.8. The seven course pattern is another thing to consider, and it's a little bit different than the Golden Four, right? We have two college level English classes that we need to take, or transferable English classes. There's also a math quantitative reasoning course that you need to take, and then four courses from at least two different subject areas, right? So as you can see there, there's a physical and biological sciences area, arts and humanities, social and behavioral sciences. And it's up to you how you want to do that split, right? If you're really big on arts and humanities, maybe you'll take three classes in that area and then one class in social and behavioral sciences. Or maybe you're more STEM heavy, so you're looking into physical and biological sciences, but you really like to draw, so maybe you'll take one course in arts and humanities, right? So you can kind of mix and match however you like, as long as the four courses from two different areas is met. In here with the UC transfer requirements, it really goes with what I just mentioned, going on the units, on the transferable units, 60 semester or 90 quarter units if you're attending a quarter school. The GPAs stated right there, 2.4 minimum for most UCs, but then for UC Davis, minimum of a 2.8 GPA for most majors. As you could see, for students interested in engineering, computer science, the minimum GPA jumps up to a 3.1 GPA. And then there's the seven course pattern, which we already talked about. And then when it comes to the transfer admission guarantee, there may be additional GPA things to consider as well. And I know I already talked a lot about this for selective majors, but these are the majors, at least in UC Davis, that require additional criteria and preparation. So this could be those additional courses that you need to complete, specific letter grades, right? So C or better, and so on and so forth, and then GPA, right? So for example, in psychology, if you're applying to psychology, for those major specific classes that you need to complete, you need a 2.9 GPA in those specific classes. Or biological sciences, where you need a 2.5 GPA in each series that is required for biological sciences. But then, of course, your overall GPA is something that you need to be thinking of when it comes to transfer admission guarantee or just overall competitiveness. And majors that are selective receive more qualified applicants than there are spaces available, right? And that's why I really encourage students to not just complete the classes that are required, but try to get the highest GPA possible. And other terminology you probably hear across the different UCs is that these selective majors can be called high demand majors, cap majors, screening majors. So it would vary depending on the campus you're looking for, but these are just kind of all meaning the same thing. And for UC Davis in particular, here are some of those selective majors. So if you're looking into the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, here's the list of those majors that are selective, right? That have those additional requirements. So as you can see for that college, it is animal biology, animal science, biotech, man econ, viticulture and enology, wildlife, fish, and conservation biology. If you're looking at the Graduate School of Business or his Graduate School of Management or the business major, which is now available for students to apply for transfer students to apply for this year. That one also has specific major requirements that you're going to have to complete. If you're looking into the College of Biological Sciences, all majors within that college will have additional courses that are required. Same with the College of Engineering. And then finally, for the College of Letters and Science, these are the majors that will have those additional requirements. So if you can, take a quick picture of this in case you're wondering, does my major require anything additional? If it's not on this list, then that means you just have to follow the minimum transfer requirements, at least for UC Davis. All right. So I did mention we're going to talk about cost of attendance because, again, that's a pretty big factor when it comes to selecting a school. And, we want to make sure that you are fully prepared when you're making a choice as to where am I going to go. Here are, some breakdowns of costs, and some of these numbers may change a little bit year over year. So if maybe you're not planning to transfer right now or go into a four-year institution right now, you're planning to do it later, it's something that for you to consider as like these costs may change a little bit, right? But for the Cal State system, you're looking at around 6,802 tuition for a California resident. For a non-resident, that would be 6,802. So and you can see there the unit the cost per unit, right? And for some of these, this might be like additional costs, especially when it comes to non-resident students. And again, it kind of varies depending on where you decide to go. For the UC system, for a California resident, it is about 15,588. For non-residents, it's 48,636 or somewhere around that range. And another thing to consider is that these are annual numbers, so for annual cost of attendance. And then finally, for the private universities out of state, you're looking at varies by the state. For HBCUs, you're looking at the in-state of 7,363, somewhere around there. And then for out of state, 15,000 or so. So again, keep these in mind as you're considering where you're going to end up going. One thing I want to show you right here is a bit of a breakdown on some of these costs. So as you can see here on the top line, we have the system-wide, or at least the UC system-wide tuition and fees. This is the same across all of those different columns, right? Where the cost changes depending on your living situation, right? So 15,588. There's also campus-based fees, which is the line just below that, which is, specific to a UC campus, right? So for UC Davis, you're looking at 2,490. If you would go to Berkeley or if you go to Riverside, that campus-based fee may change a little bit. And again, campus housing and food, this is going to change the overall cost of attendance, right? If you decide to live in a residence hall, in an on-campus apartment, maybe you decide to go an apartment off campus, or you still live with parents and you decide to commute. All of these different things are going to change what your costs are going to be. And we also have the indirect costs, right? Because books and supplies, that may vary. This is just an estimate, but maybe one year you have to buy a laptop, and that's going to be a pretty big cost when it comes to books and supplies. And the other years you don't have to buy a laptop, and that's going to change, right? Same with housing, off-campus housing, personal expenses, transportation, so on and so forth. So as you can see here, this is kind of just a breakdown again of what your anticipated costs are for the year if you decide to attend, at least in this case, UC Davis. Our one big thing that we like to mention, especially for UCs, is that we do have the tuition stability plan, right? So if you enter a UC campus, your tuition will remain flat for up to 6 years, right? As a high school student going straight to the UC system, typically you're looking at 4 to 5 years until you graduate. A transfer student might be 2 to 3 years, right? So most likely you won't go all the way to that 6 year mark, but it is something for you to know that it exists, right? That at least year to year when you're attending a UC campus, you know exactly how much your tuition and fees is going to be. Another thing to keep in mind is that 54% of UC's California undergrads pay no tuition. And that's because we have a pretty strong financial aid program here in the UC system. Some of it is because of this tuition stability plan. We also have other things like the middle class scholarship, for example, which is helpful for a lot of students. We also have the Blue and Gold program, which is helpful for a lot of students to get their tuition and fees paid for. So again, this is something for you to consider as you're looking at your different options is how much financial aid will I be able to get? Will it cover tuition and fees? And will that free up money for me to go and pay more for like housing or other expenses? And also, there's different ways of getting money when you are a student, whether it's a UC campus or elsewhere, right? Some of it is obviously working. There are different job opportunities available within a UC campus or Cal State or wherever you end up attending. That is a good way for you to get some money in your pocket. And another thing too is saving, right? There are college savings plans that a lot of students don't always think of when you're, especially when you're a student, right? You could start some of these savings plans now and, let it build over time. And next thing you know, when it's 10 years, 15 years after you've graduated, you have a good chunk of change ready for you there too. There's also grants and scholarships for you to consider, right? Some of these you will be applying for as you're going through this transfer application process or college application process. And others are available to students once they are at a UC campus or a CSU or wherever you end up going. And there's also work study available for students, again, similar to working students, at least at, for example, UCs will have like a part-time job where they'll be able to get some money in their pocket and it's fairly well balanced to your obviously education so that you're not taking too many work hours and not studying enough. They really try to make sure that you are successful in your classes. And then finally, there are loans available for students as well. If you have any questions related to any of these things and what opportunities or financial opportunities are available for you, it's always good to check the financial aid websites for the UC campuses, for CSUs, and other institutions, just to make sure you're getting up-to-date and accurate information. And finally, I want to talk about some resources that are available to students, whether it's at the CCCs, right? Here, some of these may be very familiar to you all, like Mesa, Puente, Veteran Services, EOPS, Umoja, Trio. All of these things are open for students and are there to be used by students, right? So don't be shy. Go in and get that help. Some of these programs will be specific to like education needs. Some of these may be focused on like health needs. Some of these programs do take you to different campuses so you can go and explore the UCs and Cal States, right? And again, some of them, they just help you build community while you're at a community college, which can be very helpful, especially once you're getting ready to apply and feeling that support from your community can go a long way. Many of you as transfer students are probably familiar with the Transfer Center, and if you're not, you should probably get familiar with the Transfer Center because they do have several resources for you to make sure that you get the counseling that you need, application assistance, which is going to be a pretty big thing in a couple months as you're getting ready to apply. College fairs, college tours, university representatives such as myself will go and visit and talk to folks in the transfer center to make sure that you're getting all the information you need to transfer. And then other resources that are available for you are, for example, assist.org, which some of you may already know, which is where you get to see which courses are transferable to the UCs and Cal States and even some private schools as well. You get to see general education preparation and major requirements as well there. That way you are completing the correct courses at your community college that will transfer over to the UCs or Cal States or wherever. We also have the Transfer Admission Planner, which I'll talk about in a second, which is an online tool for students to use. And then that is the home of the Transfer Admission Guarantee application. And then, of course, there's different programs. Here at UC Davis, we have the transfer preparation programs, such as Transfer Opportunity Program, which is where we help students with advising presentations like this, and we go visit schools as well to make sure students are fully prepared for transfer. And again, here is a little bit on the UC TAP account. This is the first screen you'll see when you're logging in and making a TAP account. And what it is, it's a free online tool to help students keep track and plan their coursework, right? So if you have attended a community college or a four-year institution in the past, here you could upload all the classes you took before, all the classes you're taking now, and the classes you'll be taking in the future. And you start to get an idea of how your GPA looks like, for example, and how many transferable units you may have. And it's great for advising, right? Because now myself and my colleagues can log into your TAP account and make sure that you are completing the right classes. You have them all, on listed on your record, so on and so forth. And when should you create a TAP account? You should honestly do it as soon as you can, right? Because it can be made at any time, but the sooner the better, especially when it comes to advising. And here again, kind of covers a little bit more of the benefits of having a UC Tap account, where we're able to send you communications of upcoming events, visits that you might have from UC representatives, and of course, the community college counselors can also reach you through your Tap account. And you'll be able to see, or actually you'll be able to easily transfer your Tap account information over to the UC application, right? So all that work you're putting in and uploading all your classes, past, current, and future classes, you will log in on the UC application into your Tap account and will transfer all of that information over. And it's good for central record keeping for students who have attended multiple community colleges. Some of you may attend multiple in a specific district or just over time. So it's good to have this tool to just make sure you're keeping track of all the classes you're taking. And again, this is required for the transfer admission guarantee application because the application comes from the TAP account. And here's how this goes. I will kind of go through this a little bit quickly, but this is just an overall layout of how to navigate the TAP account. You could see there on the right-hand side is the menu to kind of go in and fill different information. If you're looking to tag to a specific campus, you'll be able to put that information there as well. You'll be able to see different support programs that you could be interested in or participate in as well. As you can see here for UC Davis, we have Avenue E, Avenue M, and the Transfer Opportunity Program, which is here now, right? So if you have a TAP account, you can go ahead and click on a participant for the Transfer Opportunity Program under the Support Programs section. And again, this is where we're here to help students out through different webinars that we'll host throughout the year, whether it's related to the transfer process, to admissions, student life. Sometimes we have our student outreach ambassadors host some of these webinars so that you can get more of a student level view of some of these things that you'll cover in your journey and to transfer. We also have advising appointments, which I've mentioned before, with meeting with us as top advisors, and this is individualized support for students. And we also offer newsletters in service for community college counselors, where we go and train community college counselors on any updates to UC Davis or the UCs in general. We do early outreach for students as well. And we have a YouTube video library where students can see previous webinars or other helpful videos to get more information about transferring. And here, some of these have already passed, like Aggie Transfer Scholars Weekend, but Aggie 2B is another one that will be coming up and will be changed a little bit for future sessions compared to how it was before. Discover UC Davis is something that we'll host later on in this fall to get to experience attending UC Davis and go through different presentations, take a campus tour, and so on and so forth. Now, how can you be a top scholar? Well, if you're a part of any of these partner community colleges, then you are a top scholar. So you can go ahead and add the Transfer Opportunity Program in your TAP account, like I mentioned. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and scan this QR code right here that will take you over to our website so you can get more information on Transfer Opportunity Program, different events that are coming up, so on, so forth. All right, so some final key takeaways as we're wrapping up the presentation. Some terms that you should be familiar with: general education, the UC Transfer Admission Planner. Again, we just spoke about that one. The Transfer Admissions Guarantee, where you get guaranteed admission into one of the participating UC campuses. Selective, capped, screening majors, a lot of them, the different terms for the same thing of majors that require specific coursework or GPAs. Assist.org, great tool for you to use as you are navigating the transfer process. And then articulation agreements. And this is agreement between different institutions of higher education to make sure that the course is transferable or equivalent to something that is required. And here is a quick screenshot for you all on the important dates for transfer applicants. The UC application is open right now. So if you want to go ahead and start working on it, go for it. The Transfer Admission Guarantee application, which is for UCs only, will be open on September 1st until the 30th. And then you could start submitting the UC application on October 1st all the way till the end of November. And the CSU application is also something you could start submitting at that time. And then as spring comes along, you'll get more updates to next steps, and then we will notify, at least the UCs notify students of their admission in March or April or so. And then finally, hopefully by now you'll understand, how to define your why for going to college. You also see what research plus organizing yourself can lead to success. Be familiar with those admissions requirements for the different systems, major specific requirements, and of course, timelines. Hopefully now you have an idea of how to finance your education and what are some things to look out for. Steps to degree completion is another big takeaway from this presentation, and using your available resources, right? Whether it's at your high school, community college, um, using UC or Cal State resources like this program, so on and so forth. And then finally, tap, tag, and top. All right, so I know it went right up to the 6 o'clock hour, so I'll quickly take a look to see if there are any questions available. If not, or if you have other questions but you need to log off, please feel free to reach out to us. Here is the website for admissions. Here's the phone number. Scan the QR code to be able to connect with us. And that way you'll have another opportunity to ask questions as well.